Hello and welcome back to Bernama Today. Gerard Ratnam with you. As always, on a Wednesday, every fortnight, we get Faridah Hameed joining us to walk us through stuff with regards to what's happening in the country. She's a leadership coach, so she's got many angles, many insights, and she brings that every fortnight. She's here with us again. Thank you very much for being here on for the first time this year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Faridah. It's great to have you back. Well, so much has happened since you since I last saw you before Christmas. Now, of course, what's continuing to make history is the king stepping down. Of course, people were very sensitive as to what words they use, especially in the media. A lot's been happening, and this is a first for us once again. Now, how do you see this?
Yeah, I mean, it was a historical event of the king stepping down because it's never happened in our history. But what we have to remember is we are not a dynastic monarchy, not like Thailand or Japan or even the Windsors of England. We're an institutional monarchy. So it is a rotation system. So I don't think the stepping down of the king is as some people say it was a big event. I don't think it was so much because it's not personality driven. It's more the institution of the rulers. But you know, it's human nature. Everyone's kind of very curious about what happened, and so the rumor mill has gone into overdrive. You know, there's a saying that says nature abhors a vacuum.
Right.
And so we're having a lot of these rumors going around, but I think we have to be very careful because we do live in an information age. In the age of Twitter and Facebook, everybody has an opinion.
I'd like
about
to shut
everything.
Twitter down for some reason. Yeah.
So everybody has an opinion about everything, and I think we have to keep to the mainstream media who are doing the fact checking and who are having the actually official statements being made. But I think it was handled very well. There was a statement issued in terms of a leadership issue. I think it was a very clear and smooth transition, just like how when Tun won the elections. It was a very smooth transition. So I think in that sense, it was not as big an event as people said. Historically, yes. And my hope is that somewhere down the road that we will have the reasons why this happened, purely from a case study perspective. I think it would be very interesting for our history to know that this was part of our history and why it happened.
Why it happened.
Yeah.
Now, people like Edin Khoo all have to start getting to work. You
the
know?
historians.
The historians have to start getting to work. Now, from there, let's move on to, speaking of leadership, let's talk about Prime Minister Tun Mahathir. He has made it clear that a revamp of the education system is underway. He has made no bones about the fact that English mastery is a must. Okay, it's a long overdue, but we also know that we simply do not have enough good English teachers to make this happen. But having said that too, I need to put into my 2 cents. My 2 cents about this is that we've been condescending upon ourselves from time in remembrance as to how we speak English. Now we are so afraid of the language.
Yes.
Or at least that's what I feel. I work for Radio 4, and they used to tell me I sounded Indian. Now, how else should I sound?
Well, that's because we seem to have taken on the American accent as sort of the universal
But it was
accent.
British back then, British.
Yeah, but then, if you speak with an accent, then people will say, why are you speaking with an accent? So it's a no-win situation, right? But what I discovered actually is there was a statement made in 2016 by then Deputy Education Minister Kamalanathan, who said that 15,000 of the 60,000 teachers, English teachers that we have, we only have 15,000 who are trained to teach English.
Okay.
The rest are just teachers who are trained in other subjects who are then sent to these schools. And then because the schools don't have enough English teachers, then they are also saddled with teaching English, which is why we are in the situation that we are in. You and I grew up in an era when largely English was the medium of instruction. I grew up in an era where BM was just introduced. But you see, English was such a primary part of the communication
just
process.
Just give away your age, man.
Yeah, the communication process, right? And I think we cannot run away. I think Tun is absolutely right. All these political reasons for not speaking English, I think we're in denial. Yeah, it is the language of the internet. It is the language of science, of mathematics, of technology, of entrepreneurship. If you go to any conference, if you look for any research, it is all in English. The internet, in fact, is 50%
but I don't know, somehow within traditional media, people are blinded by this and said English is not important. I've been told this time and time again, English is not important. I don't know why you focus on English. Just the very the fact that people just don't understand basic grammar, like media, just kills me.
Absolutely. And so I think it's a reflection of a society as well when you're unable to speak the language well. Because if you are going to compete with the world, don't forget we live in a neighborhood where everybody's learning English.
But then everyone's talking about, we need to learn Mandarin because Mandarin is going to be the way to go. I maybe in the next 100 years, if I live to be 150, it's important. But for now,
it's a good language to learn, but the reality is English is the primary mode of communication internationally. If you want to do business, in diplomacy, in any form of any kind of international interaction, you do need to be able to speak English and be able to speak it well, because language matters. We see in the era of Donald Trump, the language that you use can affect a nation. It can, in terms of war and peace, it can be so, meaningful.
It is meaningful, but when you look at it here, just to us lay people, speaking in English is known as liberalism these days. I don't know how someone came up with this or how this deduction is made, but I heard someone. So there was a speech, a very important speech made the other day. We all had to attend it. Of course, I'm not going to mention names here. The person who sat next to me first told me that as soon as he heard the speaker uttering a few words in English and then continued to speak in English, talking about his or her education and all that, this person tells me that she's a liberal.
Yeah, I think these are the voices that we really need to mute out, because if you ask me, I think the majority of
if anything, I'm traditional.
Malaysians, I feel, do realize that English is important.
Right.
Yeah, I think that you have these pockets of people who are pandering to this, but the reality is if you have kids and you want your kids to do well in life, you want them to have good jobs, you want them to be able to do business internationally, it's a non-negotiable.
But then again, also when you learn English, so I know of people who've been teaching for 20, 30 years, and then they go teach at a private school. So in the private school, they then find out that they're not native English speakers, coming from overseas.
I've been told that. I've been told that I'm a non-native English speaker.
But you know what? We are a majority in the world.
That's right. That's right.
You have to be native English speaking, and of course maybe a backpacker to be able to teach in this country.
Exactly, which brings me to my next point. I feel we have a lot of retired English teachers who taught us.
Right.
And I think we should use them, because I think they would be so happy to come and teach. I don't think we need to import Americans to come and teach us how to speak English, because I studied in America and I know that their standard of English is nothing to shout about.
No, I can't spell color without a U. I really don't know how to do that. Try as hard as I may. I can't.
So the reality is that we have this resource of retired English teachers, and I really think we should find a way to engage and embrace them and bring them back into
I would like to make this a call to all private institutions who are employing lock, stock and barrel foreign teachers and paying them large sums of money and giving them great benefits. Take care of our teachers here first. Yeah, this is my call.
And we have many Malaysians who speak excellent English.
Okay, now from there you want to talk about history.
Yes.
Sting said in his song very clearly, history will teach us nothing.
Yeah. I think
history will teach us nothing.
I think history teaches us a lot. And when you're talking about the reason why I wanted to also talk about history is because I think history is very much our socio-cultural DNA. One of the pet peeves I have had is that our history has been mangled. There's a lot of it's been skewed because of political reasons, and especially over the last 20 years, and I think this has to stop. I think history is about our identity, it is about our roots. If we do not teach our children where we came from, how this country was built, who contributed to the building of this country, they are going to grow up not knowing the backstory of what makes us the nation that we are. We've had a peaceful country generally for about 60 over years. It is an achievement few other countries in the world have achieved. But we have to understand that if we keep this insular narrative going, that is a very mono-ethnic...
We'll use that as an operative here. Insular narrative.
It's a very mono-ethnic and mono-religious narrative going. We are really doing a disservice to our young people, because they have every right to know how this country was built and who contributed to the building. My concern is with English, we have to bring in history, because history really tells us where we come from, because if we don't have our identity, we don't know where to go.
Right. So if you don't know where you're coming from, you're not quite sure where you're going. On that note, before I let you go very quickly, we've got about 1 minute left. It's 9 days into the new year. People are giving up or failing on resolutions. As a leadership coach, your 2 cents.
Well, they say January 12th is the cutoff date for people giving up on their resolution.
Okay.
So I'm just going to keep it short. I'm just going to say you have to understand 3 things. One is you have to understand that it's about progress, not perfection. You have to understand it's about results, not resolutions, and action, not reaction. So these are the 3 things you must focus on. Have a plan in place. Give yourself small rewards.
Right. So once again, 3 things: progress.
Progress, not perfection. Results, not resolutions. And take action, don't react. So action, not reaction.
Right. On that note, we'd like to thank Faridah Hameed for coming in. If one wants to get in touch with you, it's faridahhameed.com.
faridahhameed.com.
Oh, yeah. So just go to faridahhameed.com and you can speak to the lady, ask her about anything, and she'll give you a take on it. Thank you very much, Faridah.
Thank you,
Hope to
Gerard.
see you in 2 weeks. Stay with us. We'll take a short break and come back with Fabian and our feature guest today, right here on Bernama Today.